This is Unit 2 for the subject English Language System and Application Software. In this unit, we will talk about some of the advances that have happened in today's society in the last few years thanks to the use of ICT. First of all, we will talk about gadgets that are commonly used today. Now, what is a gadget? We may say that gadget is a device or an appliance that has a useful, specific, practical purpose and function, but it is often thought of as a novelty. Gadgets are considered to be unusually or more cleverly designed than normal technology at the time of their invention. As a gadget becomes widely used, it is no longer referred to as a gadget. For example, when cell phones were first introduced, they were considered a gadget. However, as they became more mainstream, they were no longer referred to as a gadget. Some examples of gadgets would be smart TV, smartphones, digital cameras, tablets, and so on. Check the link you can see on this slide to read interesting information about some of the latest gadgets. What are smart cards? A smart card resembles a credit card in size and shape, but inside it is completely different. The inside of a smart card usually contains an embedded microprocessor. The microprocessor is under a gold contact pad on one side of the card. Think of the microprocessor as replacing the usual magnetic stripe on a credit card or debit card. The microprocessor on the smart card is there for security. The host computer and card reader actually talk to the microprocessor. The microprocessor enforces access to the data on the card. The smart card uses a serial interface and receives its power from external sources like a card reader. The processor uses a limited instruction set for applications such as cryptography. The most common smart card applications are credit cards, electronic cash, computer security systems, wireless communication, banking, satellite TV, and health insurance. Smart cards are much more popular in Europe than in the United States. In Europe, the health insurance and banking industries use smart cards extensively. Every German citizen has a smart card for health insurance. What is multimedia? Multimedia is the use of computers to present text, graphics, video, animation, and sound in an integrated way. Multimedia applications were until the mid-90s uncommon due to the expensive hardware required. With increases in performance and decreases in price, however, multimedia is now commonplace. Multimedia can be distinguished from traditional motion pictures or movies both by the scale of the production, because multimedia is usually smaller and less expensive, and by the possibility of audience interactivity or involvement, in which case it is usually called interactive multimedia. Interactive elements can include voice command, mouse manipulation, text entry, touch screen, video capture of the user, or live participation in the case of live presentations. Multimedia tends to imply sophistication and relatively more expense in both production and presentation than simple text and images. The main advantage of multimedia is that it makes any content more appealing and more interesting for the users. What is an expert system? Expert systems are part of a general category of computer applications known as artificial intelligence. Expert systems typically consist of three parts. First is a knowledge base, which contains the information acquired by interviewing experts and logic rules that govern how that information is applied. Second is an inference engine that interprets the submitted problem against the rules and logic of information stored in the knowledge base, and the third would be interface that allows the user to express the problem in a human language such as English. There are expert systems that can diagnose human illnesses, make financial forecasts, and schedule routes for delivery vehicles. Some expert systems are designed to take the place of human experts, while others are designed to aid them. Telecommuting, also known as teleworking, is the act of working from a remote location, usually one's home. This is made simple with the use of various telecommunication technologies such as a telephone, fax machine, and the internet. Many telecommuters are also set up with the web conferencing capabilities, allowing them to be present in office meetings via modem or webcam, or at very least a conference call. A smart home or a smart house is a home that incorporates advanced automation systems to provide inhabitants with sophisticated monitoring and control over the building's functions. For example, a smart home may control lighting, temperature, multimedia, security, window and door operations, as well as many other functions. Smart homes use home automation technologies to provide homeowners with intelligent feedback and information by monitoring many aspects of a home. For example, a smart home's refrigerator may be able to catalog its contents, suggest menus, recommend healthy alternatives, and order replacements as food is used up. A smart home might even take care of feeding the cat and watering the plants. Regardless of the technology, smart homes present some very exciting opportunities to change the way we live and work and to reduce energy consumption at the same time. Imagine being able to check messages, open windows, operate lights and curtains, and monitor how much money your house has made you from your renewable energy system to your smartphone from anywhere in the world. Home automation technology has developed so far that the only limit is your imagination. Check the YouTube links you can see on this slide to get an insight in how some smart devices and smart homes look like. What do you think? Is this the way we are going to communicate in future? You have an assignment to write an essay presenting your opinion about the concept of smart houses, its advantages and disadvantages. You can send your papers to iris@fit.ba for checking. The next thing we will talk about is related to grammar. We will talk about the use of prepositions and the most common mistakes our speakers make when it comes to the use of prepositions. Now, what is a preposition? A preposition is a short word that is used to link noun, pronouns, and phrases to other words in a sentence. The word or phrase that the preposition introduces is called the object of the preposition. A preposition is used to indicate the temporal, spatial, or logical relationship of its object to the rest of the sentence. Here are some examples. The pencil is on the desk. The pencil is beneath the desk. The pencil is on the floor beside the desk. He held the pencil over the desk. He wrote with a pencil during class. Even advanced learners of English find prepositions difficult, as a one-to-one translation is usually not possible. One preposition in our native language might have several translations depending on the situation. There are hardly any rules as to when to use which preposition. The only way to learn prepositions is by looking them up in a dictionary, reading a lot in English, and by learning useful phrases by heart. There are different types of prepositions. We have prepositions for time, for place, for direction, for agent, for instrument, and prepositional phrases. Here are some examples of the prepositions used for time. He was born in 1945. She will go to New York on the 25th of March. The concert will begin at 7 o'clock. He gets up early in the morning. We enjoyed a lot in the summer. Here are some examples of prepositions for place. Prepositions in, on, and at are the most common. In is usually used for a place which has some boundary, where boundary may be physical or virtual. On is used for surface, and at is usually used to mark a specific place. So we would say, she lives in New York. Students study in library. The wedding ceremony will be held in the hall. There are some books on the table. The teacher wrote a sentence on blackboard. He was flying kite on the roof. Prepositions like to towards, through, into are used to describe the direction. Following examples will help in better understanding. She went to library. He jumped into the river. He ran away when he felt that someone was coming toward him. Preposition for agent is used for a thing which is a cause of another thing in the sentence. Such prepositions are by, with, and so on. Following examples will help in better understanding. This book is written by Shakespeare. The work was completed by him. The room was decorated by her. The tub is filled with water. Different prepositions are used by different devices, instruments, or machines. For example, by, with, on, and so on. Following examples will help in better understanding. She comes by bus daily. He opened the lock with a key. What is a prepositional phrase? A prepositional phrase is a combination of a verb and a preposition. It is just a verb followed by a preposition. Some verbs need particular prepositions to be used after them in a sentence having a direct object. Such a verb with its required preposition is called a prepositional phrase. For example, he knocks at the door. In this sentence, knock at is a prepositional phrase which contains a verb knock and the preposition at. Without the use of correct preposition after a prepositional verb in a sentence, the sentence is considered to be grammatically wrong. For example, if we say he knocks the door, it is wrong because it lacks the required preposition at, so the correct sentence is he knocks at the door. Prepositional verbs are transitive and they have a direct object in a sentence. Some of the frequently used prepositional verbs are laugh at, knock at, listen to, look at, look for, look after, wait for, agree to, agree with, talk about, talk to. Have a look at the examples. She is listening to music. She looked at the blackboard. We believe in God. They were waiting for the teacher. Do you agree with me? Someone is knocking at the door. Following are some typical mistakes made in the use of prepositions. These mistakes are usually made due to the literal translation of preposition from our native language to English. Instead of saying she was standing on the bus station, it is correct to say she was standing at the bus station because this refers to the specific location. Instead of saying on the picture, you can see my dog, which would be the case with our native language, it is correct to say in the picture, you can see my dog. Instead of saying she spent 2 hours on the sun, we would say she spent 2 hours in the sun. Instead of saying she told us the story on English, it is correct to say she told us the story in English. Instead of there are lots of people on the street, it would be correct to say there are lots of people in the street. Don't say she was standing on the bus station. Instead, it is correct to say she was standing at the bus station. Don't say on the picture, but instead you should say in the picture. Don't say she spent 2 hours on the sun, but instead say in the sun. The following are some typical mistakes made in the use of prepositions for time. Instead of saying come to my place in 5 o'clock, it is correct to say come to my place at 5 o'clock. It is not correct to say I'll be back in noon or in midnight, but instead we should say I'll be back at noon or at midnight. Instead of saying the concert is in Monday, we say the concert is on Monday. It is not correct to say in which time does it start, but instead we should say at what time does it start. Here are some typical mistakes made in the use of prepositions with the verbs of movement. Instead of saying I go in the cinema, we should say I go to the cinema every Sunday. It would be incorrect to say she runs in school every morning, but instead we should say she runs to school every morning. Instead of saying this summer we shall drive on the seaside, we should say this summer we shall drive to the seaside. It would be incorrect to say did you go on the skiing last year? Instead of that we should say did you go skiing last year? Here are some of the typical mistakes made in the use of prepositions until, from, and on. It would be incorrect to say, I have been waiting for you from noon. Instead, it is correct to say, I've been waiting for you since noon. We should never say, this is my teacher from history, but instead we should say, this is my history teacher. We don't say, we all learn on mistakes, but we all learn from mistakes. Remember, we should never say, this is my teacher from history, but instead, this is my history teacher. Here are some other typical mistakes. We wouldn't say, it depends of you, but it depends on you. It is incorrect to say, she will take care about the children, but instead we should say she will take care of the children. Instead of saying I listen music every day, we should say I listen to music every day. It is wrong to say he looked me in surprise, but instead we should say he looked at me in surprise. It is incorrect to say she waited us at home. The correct version would be she waited for us at home. It is incorrect to say they are interested for music, but instead the correct version would be they are interested in music. Remember to do the exercises in the document ICT World posted on the DL system. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to iris@edu.fit.ba or ask them in our next term for online consultations.